but it will be a Carolina Panthers defensive player winning the Super Bowl MVP award. There we go. Balls on Fire is officially put out. But rest assured, we have more show to give you here on Balls Deep Sports Talk. Thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully we're just a little bit past the halfway point. Hopefully. And I'm Scotty Ball. Yeah, alright. Alright, now believe it or not, there has actually been other NFL news going on since, besides the Super Bowl, since the last time we talked. None bigger, in my opinion, than the shocking, well, to me shocking, I heard it was possible, but I didn't think he was actually going to do it, the retirement of one Calvin Megatron Johnson of the Detroit Lions. That's right, wide receiver Calvin Johnson announced his retirement from football at age 30 or 31. I couldn't have been more bummed to see this. I'm not a Lions fan, but anytime you can tell undoubtedly that someone's special at something, to see them for any reason choose to just stop doing it, it's a bummer for the rest of us. You hope that person got out of it what they deserve to, but when you're like us on the other side of it, you can't help but feel chipped. And when I heard it, it was like all I could think in my head was only the Detroit Lions. It's Barry Sanders all over again. What is it about that freaking Detroit Lions franchise that can take one of the greatest running backs of all time and make him not love football and not want to play anymore at age 30? And then 10, 20 years later, they do the same thing with one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. From a talent, skill, standpoint. What are you guys doing to people up there in Detroit? It's so unfortunate. Now, my theory is it's actually not a Detroit thing, and that Barry Sanders situation was different. My theory is that it's kind of a new generation combination of two things. Where on one hand you do have a lot of general health concerns from a lot of players nowadays, and rightfully so, and they're entitled to take whatever actions in regard to their personal health that they feel to be right. I will never argue that whatsoever. But while you do have that in the equation now, I think you've also got a case of what I call the Ricky Williams syndrome. No, Calvin Johnson doesn't want to go discover himself over in India while smoking a bunch of ganj, for the next 3 years or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. When I say the Ricky Williams syndrome, I'm talking about pro athletes, okay, in all sports, that while they very much enjoy playing the game and have fun, it is simply a job. They do not, in fact, love playing the game. They're extremely good at it, and they can make a very good living for themselves and their family doing it, and that is it. And again, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Anybody who fits, that mold, if that is in fact part of the case for Calvin Johnson here as well, as I believe it to be, no issues with that whatsoever. But the issue that I would have is actually with team general managers and team owners and the people in the front office that make the financial investment into a person that fits that mold. You've got to make a smarter, better business decision. you can't be investing all your resources and all your hopes and expectations into people that don't love it with every ounce of their being, and that's all they want to do. Like my interview guest Bobby Felder on VikingsDigitalDiaries.com earlier this week. He spoke of his just deep love to play the game of football. He just loves playing football. That's not everybody in the league, and that's fine if you're not one of those guys, but from the ownership standpoint, you've got to do a better job at identifying those guys and recognizing how big of a priority that is. Because if you do then still choose to go, no, we're going to bring in this guy, and we know that might be how it works out, but his what he brings to the table outweighs it. If you go down that road, then if you haven't won anything at the end of year 6, year 7, knowing that this guy's got maybe a 10-year life tops, with at least 1 to 2 years left in him, you've got to then trade that guy. He's become a piece that could help a team. He could be the missing guy that gets a team a Super Bowl ring. You could in turn get multiple building block pieces for your franchise for that one guy. It would be a great return on your investment. The problem is when you do it the way the Detroit Lions did it with Barry and the way that they did it now with Calvin Megatron Johnson. It amounted to nothing, for one thing, and then they got nothing for it at the end. If you're going to have the guy retire that early, man, trade him a year or two ago and get 2 first-round draft picks and 4 second-round draft picks and, millions and millions of dollars in cap room to sign the biggest name, 2 or 3 of the biggest name free agents, and just, there's so much you could do with that then moving forward, into the next chapter of your team's story. But not when you're the Detroit Lions. Nope, you just stop and start over if you're the Detroit Lions. So, man, tough luck in Detroit. Gonna miss watching Megatron provide highlight catches on Espen next year for sure. All right, also in NFL player news, Johnny Manziel apparently got into a domestic dispute with his girlfriend a week or two ago in Texas. Reports now coming out that he struck her multiple times. Not good news for Johnny Manziel. He was already going to be cut, or is cut, one of the two, and was going to have a hard time finding a job. His one chance was signing with the Dallas Cowboys, and it would have worked out perfect because he could be the tentative heir apparent to Tony Romo, be a backup that could go in and play if they needed, and would buy them time, would buy them at least one more year of having to look for the real heir apparent to Tony Romo, without having to sacrifice a draft pick or salary cap money, a significant amount of salary cap money or something like that to do it. So bad news for Johnny Football. And if you haven't given up on that one, now might not be a bad time to start. What else do we got? 2 big stories regarding new rules or new things for the NFL. Next season, in the regular season, it is expected and almost officially scheduled that there will be a regular season game played in Mexico City. Not London, but Mexico City. And that game will be between the Houston Texans and the Oakland Raiders, both of which, geographically would probably have decent fan bases down there as well, one would think. Now, this will be the first NFL game in Mexico City since 2005. I don't know if there were any before 2005 or if that was the only one. But so that's cool, and to me that makes way more sense, and it's way less to ask of the teams and players and everything, to just go from Southern California or Texas down to Mexico. That's not so bad. But to go from, anywhere in the United States all the way across the freaking Atlantic Ocean into another continent that's almost halfway around the world, that's totally different. So, but anyway, if you're a Balls Deep goer who lives in Mexico City, first off, hola, como está, but you have plenty of time, I believe, to go out and get your tickets for that, but it will be next season as long as everything goes through. But like I said, I don't think it was official. Now, the really big story for NFL news that just came down today, I thought, was that Roger Goodell has announced that there will be a new rule implemented, and it is going to be a new version of the Rooney Rule. Now, the Rooney Rule is the rule that says that all teams have to interview minority candidates before hiring their final candidate in, a coaching position or an executive position or, things like that. Well, they are going to make a Rooney Rule now that is aimed at women's inclusion in the NFL as well. So any team hiring for an executive position in its front office will not only have to interview minorities, they will also have to interview females. And anything, that promotes fairness and equality, equal rights, equal respect, equal opportunity, I'm all for that. So, good job, Roger Goodell and the NFL on that one. Nobody ever wants to, talk about the things that he or they do right, but everybody wants to rant and rave when they get stuff embarrassingly wrong, which they do quite frequently. Don't get me, I'm not gonna lie. But me being a two-sided coin guy, I gotta give props when and where it's due. So kudos, NFL, on your new Rooney Rule applying to women in executive positions in the NFL. All right, well, a little bit of NFL draft news super quick. Hell must be freezing over. Pretty sure Lucifer's building a snowman or having a snowball fight, because we live in a world where it is conceivable. It's inconceivable. No, it's conceivable that the quarterback of the North Dakota State University Bison could be the number one pick in the NFL draft. Yes, you heard me correctly. This isn't just because I live in Minnesota, so I'm like, oh, he's good, you should take him there. No, this is what all the scouts and everybody is saying. Carson Wentz, quarterback of North Dakota State University Bison, is going to be in the upcoming draft, and I am currently seeing him going either number 2 overall or number 4 overall on just about everybody's list. Now, granted, we haven't played the Super Bowl yet. We're not nowhere near the Combine yet, pro days, all those things, and they all have a huge impact on draft stock, especially when it comes to a quarterback whose name is being mentioned in the first round. But just the simple fact that it is possible, it is realistically possible, that we are at a point in history, in our universe, where the quarterback for the freaking Bison, the NDSU Bison, is the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Are you kidding me? Wow. I'm not saying he shouldn't be. Not at all. Not at all what I'm saying. We'll get into whether he should or shouldn't be as we get much closer to the draft. All I'm trying to say is the idea that whatever guy that plays that position for that school's football team could be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. I would have told you I will take that bet. That will never happen ever in the history of ever done. But it might. So, hey, if you need a reason to be excited or intrigued about the draft, start looking into some of what's going on. There you go. There's your reason right there. Carson Wentz, quarterback for the NDSU Bison and potential first quarterback taken